It's story time. Today I'm going to talk about the Paulk Smart Workbench. Its history, where it all started, where it is today, how it all works together as a system, and along the way I'm going to reveal the single feature that has made the biggest difference in my work life. I'm Ron Paulk, and this is the Smart Woodshop. If you want to get a set of plans to build a smart woodshop for yourself or one of my workbenches, there's a link in the description of this video down below. May 6th, 2011, I put up my first video on this channel introducing the ultimate workbench. It wasn't the ultimate workbench very long. Gary Katz, somebody who I admire and have learned much from over the years, contacted me and said, Ron, the ultimate workbench is just a terrible name. It's way overused and it means nothing. Well, I took his advice and I changed the name to the Paulk Workbench. That workbench was a 4x8 two-part bench that went on top of a couple of sawhorses. It was designed so that I could work by myself, move it onto any job. It was something that I was really after, something that I had not had in well over 20 years of being a contractor. Something that I just had put my mind to coming up with just a better way to work when I'm on the job. That bench was a bit heavy. It had some pipes in it to hold the table saw up. It was really super cool, but it was a first attempt. Actually, it was well along the way of multiple attempts, but it was the first fully realized attempt. I had many prototypes, many mock-ups that came before that, but that was the first one that I really felt like I had something, and I was actually using it on the job, and I was getting a tremendous amount of feedback, both from people in the field and just people that I was working for. And that gave me the idea that, well, I built this for me and for my needs, but maybe somebody else out there might find this useful. And there was this up and coming YouTube thing that was going on. And I had watched a few of the videos and I thought, well, I'm going to make a video and put it up and just share it. That video, much to my surprise, got 500 views and then 1,000 views. And I was watching it. It was addictive. 1,200 views, couple of thousand views. And then emails started pouring in, asking me questions about specifics on the bench. It was a lot of fun. It was very inspiring and it made me feel really good, but it was taking a lot of time. Plus, a lot of the emails were requests for plans, for details on building the workbench. And I pushed back on that. I said, no, I don't have any plans, but just watch the video a couple times. You'll be able to figure it out. At some point, the demand was so high, I decided, you know, I'm spending so much time answering questions. I'm just going to design a set of, build a set of plans. They were a tremendous success. Along the way, I'm still working, going out on the jobs. I'm taking the bench with me, and I am discovering some shortcomings. So within that first year, the Paulk Workbench 2 came out. I took the plans and I took all the modifications, greatly improved it. And the Paulk Workbench 2 has just been there. In fact, those plans are still available to purchase and download. I never bothered to update it or change it. It just worked well. That is until 2020, last year. I had a lot of wonderful time in the shop. Starting in 2020, all of the new benches took on a new name. They became part of the Smart Woodshop, so they're the Paulk Smart, whatever they are. This bench here, that was the Paulk Compact Bench for years, became the main bench. This became the Paulk Smart Bench. So when I designed the larger version, I called it the Paulk Smart Big Bench. And of course, the Paulk Smart Station. All of these benches and all this Paulk Smart stuff can be kind of confusing. But it really isn't. It's pretty simple. The heart or core of the system is this bench right here, the Paulk Smart Bench. It's not the compact bench, it is just the bench, the Paulk Smart Bench. This big bench is nothing more than a larger version, and this is the Paulk Smart Station. This evolved from the Total Station, the Paulk Total Station in the past. It was updated once, and then the revolution in 2020 brought forth this one, which is completely and totally different. To the untrained eye, it may look the same, but those that have followed along know that it is really different than anything in the past. At the heart of the system, it's an MFT table. It has 20 millimeter holes on a 96 millimeter spacing. That is industry standard and has been since World War II. It has to do with machinery that was available and rebuilding from all the bombing that happened in Europe. Each of these holes are a multiple of 32. In both directions, there's 96. Now for my needs, I added an extra row that are 32 millimeters in from the edge. That's true on the Paulk Smart Bench, the Paulk Smart Big Bench, and the Paulk Smart Station. I added that extra row to the edge because of clamping reasons and also for squaring up in some of my accessories. I wanted a set of holes as close to the edge as possible. What drove me to designing the very first workbench was personal need. After a couple of decades in the field, building lots of houses and doing lots of remodels, I had a number of workbenches, that hodgepodge things that I'd used in the field. The age-old throwing a sheet of 3/4 plywood on top of a couple of sawhorses, and it worked okay. You know, they're not flat and everything, but hey, they work. The bench that worked the longest for me prior to these was a hollow core door, a 3 foot wide by 6'8", and I'd throw them on a couple of those store-bought plastic sawhorses. The thing that bothered me the most, that interfered with my production the most with any of those workbenches, was it was a flat surface and it was always piled with stuff. The tool, when you're working, the tools go there, there's no place to put tools. And that was the thing that drove me crazy. It was so inefficient. And that's how the first Paulk workbench idea was born. I wanted to come up with a way to have a workbench with a shelf beneath it that wasn't too heavy. And I started with the 4x8, but that was too big to carry, so I split it in half. And so that led to a lot of the detailing of it and how the first one came together. The openings on the side were to take away as much wood as possible. If I didn't need it for structure, it was coming out. I was taking away as much wood as I could to make it lightweight, or as light as possible, because I knew that it was going to be these shoulders that were carrying it in, and I was going to be carrying it upstairs, and I was going to be putting it in my trailer or the back of my truck. So I wanted it, I wanted to know that I would use it, that I wouldn't go, oh, it's too heavy, it's too big, I'll get it out another day. I wanted to get it out. It'd be the first tool I take out and set up. It'd be my #1 tool. And that's what it has become. If I'm working on a job or here or anywhere woodworking, the first tool to set up is actually the Total Station, but it's one of the workbenches. And it's the last one to come down. It is my main tool. It is #1 over any saw, any tape measure, any drill. The workbench is #1. It's what makes me efficient and productive. With that first design done and working, I decided that I wanted to have my table saw hanging off the bench so that when I set up, I didn't have to try to get the height of the bench and the height of the table saw exactly the same. And also, if I was on uneven ground, it didn't matter if the bench was in a garage that had slope or on a driveway. Because if the bench is level, you know, as long as the bench is flat, you know, I'm not putting a level on the bench when I'm building things. It only matters that it's flat. If I'm going downhill, so what? So if the table saw was hanging off of it and in plane with the bench, then that's all I needed. So I came up with a set of pipes that were permanently mounted to the bench that slid out, and then I took some wood and fabricated some brackets that were screwed on, bolted on to the table saw, and dropped it on. You can see all of this if you want to go back and see that very first video. And then the sawhorses came along. I didn't like any of the sawhorses I could buy on the market. None of them were quite this right size, what I wanted. So I made some out of wood, not nearly as evolved as the ones I have now are, but still they were a nice feature that got the bench at the height I needed, because obviously the thickness of the bench, the thickness of the top, meant that the sawhorses needed to be shorter because I wanted the working height at 36. Again, industry standard. Tooling is 36 inches. I wanted to use my bench with things that are around. Kitchen counter finished heights, 36. 36 is the number. My viewers were saying, hey, I love the bench, but it's just too big for me. I need something smaller. And I thought, well, I want the bigger bench. I don't want the smaller bench. But again, demand. So I decided to go ahead and create a compact version. It didn't need to be two-piece, that I could carry a 3x6 easily, and it would fit in any of my trucks, my trailer. And so I finished that design, built it up, made videos, made it available. After building it to make the video, I started using it, and I realized that this was actually the perfect size. It was big enough. There was enough real estate. I couldn't have it any smaller. It was as small as I could go and be a working bench. Not having the two-piece made it a little quicker to set up, and because it was actually wider than 1/2 of the bigger bench, I was able to store everything inside of it. So I was nesting the sawhorses and everything. I have been a bench designer for 10 years now, a decade, and I literally dream about workbenches. I think about millimeters and slight adjustments and how could I improve this. So I'm going to speed through a little bit. The total station came along for a myriad of reasons. I wanted a miter stand in a workbench. We're now in the revolutionary phase that came in 2020. I was able to spend a lot of time here in this shop thinking about things, doing things, bringing things to fruition that I had thought about over the years. And the total station became the Smart Station. And the big revolution was I went on top of the bench with all of the accessories. And putting things on top of the bench as opposed to flush with the bench came about because of the router table. In the previous versions, the two total stations, the router was part of the workbench, and there was only one spot that it would fit. And then the fence went here, and I had it all dialed so I had room to rip with the table saw down there and run the router. But I wanted a little more real estate. I didn't want a bigger bench. I wanted a much bigger router table and a bigger fence. And so it ended up being this, which the beauty of this router table is it's one piece of 18mm plywood. There is no add-ons to it. There's no stiffeners, strong backs. There's nothing to make it thicker. There's no hardware. It is simply a piece of 18mm ply with wood cut away from it. It's sort of like the router table is in there, but I had to find it. So the router table went on, and just a couple of bench dogs to hold it down. As I looked at the router table on the total station, it added real estate. So it not only was a router table, but without the fence, it's also extra work surface. And that led to the Smart Station. Now with things on top, expanding the use without making it big and clunky, without making it heavier, I was able to put the extensions on in a single piece and not have to embed them into the bench like the two total stations were. So now I have my extensions in a single piece, so I don't have to have the T-track butted up and the slide go through. And also, I realized that I only need the shorter extensions 80–90% of the time. They do all I need, and so I didn't need those big long extensions on all the time. So I was able to make a long set and a short set. So when it's time to put up crown molding or run base molding, put the long ones on. When I'm done with that, put it away, because these will do everything else. My cabinet installs, my hardwood installs, these are all I need. I had gone away from hanging the table saw off the end of the bench because I went to the much larger, much heavier saw stop. But of course, the router table being put on top allowed more flexibility with mounting the table saw. Now I have the ability to attach to the top with these big wide flanges, just the way the table, just the way the router is. So I designed a cradle that is lightweight, a lot of wood cut away, has the MFT holes, and I can mount it on any of my benches, on the ends, on the sides. It doesn't matter. It just works. And of course, if it works for a table saw, it works for my sanders, it works for my Kreg jig, it works for any tool, any benchtop tool. Now I can hang off the bench and have its top flushed right up with this working surface. So now I can rip material. It runs right through the back, right across the router tables. And then the crosscut jig got incredibly simple. Again, because I could bolt it right on the top, it became one piece. When I set up, the first thing I set up is the Paulk Smart Station. It's my main go-to bench. It's my tool bench. So it's got my miter stand. I can put my sander, my Kreg on it, of course my routers. And as you know, I like to run dual routers. It helps me in my production. My table saw goes on there. I even have a smaller cradle with the battery operated DeWalt table saw. I can throw that on the second bench if I need two table saws. I can actually put it on the end here where the sander goes, and I do that a lot. So I got dual table saws I can set up. If I'm dadoing on one, I can keep the other to rip. This is my go-to bench, and I can do most everything I need with this. It's really when I get into assembly of, say, cabinets, or building a mantle, or building bookcases, or breaking down plywood, that then I need my second bench. But it's so easy to set up the second bench that typically I will set it up. I just know that something will come up that will make my life easier to have both. In 2020, the year of the Paulk Smart benches, I wanted to work on a cart system to tuck away, to store both of my main benches, the station and the bench, and put them in some kind of cart, mobile unit that I could roll them into the middle of my trailer and roll them onto the job and then set them up. That cart, as it was being designed, evolved, prototypes, typical. I went through a lot of iterations, and I ended up with the carts that you all know, the Paulk Smart cart. These carts not only work together, where one has the benches set on edge in it and everything stored in the middle, and the second cart flips over on the top and creates this cube that I can then roll in the aisle of my trailer, get it on the job, roll it, and set it up. What it also became is a mobility cart for each of my benches. I said in the beginning of this video that I was going to tell you the attribute, the feature that has made the biggest difference to me in my work life, my efficiency, and just the joy of working on my wood projects. The MFT holes, certainly important. I use them every single day. The storage underneath, absolutely critical. Keeps the workbenches clear, keeps the tools at hand. But the mobility cart has been the thing that has made the biggest difference. What was just to get it to and from the job has become a feature of how I work in smaller spaces and larger spaces. I'm able to, at the end of the day here in this small shop where I have the Smart Wood Shop and I have all of my personal possessions stored and I park my truck in here every night, I'm working on a project and I just leave everything the way it is, and I push them up against the storage bins over there, nest them against each other. I don't even plug it from the wall with that flexi extension cord. I just push it over there and back the truck in and lock the door and head out. The next day, all I have to do is pull the truck out and roll them out, and they're ready to use. In fact, on the wheels, I've set them up, as you know, so that I have this bar and I have the flip up wheels so that it'll drop down and it makes it stable, because my thinking was, you know, it's got to be stable all the time, and having it on wheels would not work out so well. Well, I've found that most of the time the wheels stay down and I'm moving it all the time, sometimes just a matter of inches to get room to rip. When I'm on the job, it even makes a bigger difference. One of the time-consuming things, I'm a planner. So when I build a house, and I've built 200 plus houses, my wife and I. And so developing systems, I plan a house out from the day that I hand the keys to the owners and say, enjoy your new home, backwards. I figure out where I need to be, what date I need to be on there, when the materials need to arrive, when the cabinets need to arrive, the windows, when the drywaller needs to be there, when it's going to be painted. All of that's planned and put on a Gantt chart. And I start at the end and work backwards and set the dates, and I hit those dates. And so planning, I like to think about everything. When I roll out on a job, whether I'm starting with the hardwood or putting in cabinets, and because I'm doing my own projects for my clients, I'm there for a long time because I usually do all of that. I bring out my workbenches and I try to find a place. I look around. Usually the houses are larger and I've got a great room, and that's my go-to place. Usually it's a kitchen off to one side. I know I'm going to be setting cabinets. I know I'm going to be putting hardwood down throughout. So I have to pick a spot to set up my bench and then load materials or stack materials or whatever I'm going to do. And then if I start laying hardwood, I go to a certain distance and then I have to break down and move the bench, put some cloths down and set up on the hardwood and then finish the other way. When I've got cabinets, I know the cabinets are going to be delivered. I need room to store them. And then I need to move them over into the kitchen. So I think about where can I put the bench? And a lot of times it's a few more steps than what would be ideal, but I need the pathway or the flow. Well, now with this, I don't have to even spend 1 second thinking about where do I set my bench up. Because even with this one, with all the tools on it, set up and ready to go, I can put it over in the corner. I don't even have to unplug it. I can just shove it over in the corner and move cabinets and get them where they go, and then I can pull the bench right up where I'm installing cabinets and have all the tools that I need to cut fillers and all of those things. Or when I'm doing hardwood, I don't have to reset. I just move it. I can be closer to where I'm nailing, get up, jump up, cut the hardwood to length, go back down. No dragging a miter saw around on the floor like, you know, with a long extension cord the way I used to do it. If I need to rip a piece of hardwood, it's all there, it's close. It's like, again, the MFT holes, they're important. They're critical, they're essential. Without them, the system doesn't work. With the storage underneath, the system doesn't work because tools are I can't get things done with tools on the benches. But the wheels have made the biggest difference. Again, it's not only the efficiency, the workflow, the ergonomics, you know, getting closer to where I need to be. It is just the joy of not having to plan. I don't have to think about if I put it here and then I'll get this much done and then I'll move it over there. Once I set up, I'm done setting up for the whole job. If you put this all together, this is the perfect system. It couldn't be improved upon. Well, not according to me. There's always room for improvement. I'm not sure what yet, but I'm sure I'll figure out something that I can make even better in the future. But for now, I am very satisfied with it, and I am really looking forward to getting that first remodel that I've been looking for 2 years. Personal remodel. You guys know, if you're following Zillow and Redfin and all of those, buying a house these days is probably the biggest challenge, but I'm on the hunt and I am working hard and have a couple of agents looking, and I spend at least an hour a day on Zillow. Keep an eye on this channel, subscribe, ring the bell so you want to put up a new video. The day is coming where I'm going to have a house and I'm going to move this trailer with these benches in, and I'm going to have a lot of fun, and I want to bring you all along with me and show you how I use this stuff and how I do certain things. Thanks for dropping into the Smart Wood Shop. You stay safe and have a great day.